Welcome back. Today, I'm going to be talking about the subject of physician burnout. Now, I've talked about this extensively in the past. This is a lot of what my coaching is based around. I've actually done a white paper on burnout. I've presented this same, submitted my burnout trainings and been accepted by the Illinois Supreme Court on professionalism for to teach this training to people, to lawyers specifically. So I could say I'm something of a subject matter expert. In addition to that, I have also been through my own journey with burnout, as I suffered burnout very early in my career. And I come through the process with tips and tricks and strategies and coaching programs, all geared towards defeating burnout and making sure that doctors are happier and able to practice for longer. Now, to face this question head on, people ask me all the time, did you leave medicine because you were burnt out? Actually, no. The answer to that is no. I retired from medicine when I got to a point where I had so many coaching clients that it just made sense to do that. And this is something I've always wanted to do anyway. So today I'm going to do this. I'm calling it a 3-part series on burnout. And today I'm going to share a little bit of my story and talk about the definitions of burnout and debunk some of the myths that doctors have when it comes to burnout. Now, remember this. If you want to work with me one-on-one, there's a link which I attached to this that I will post, and you can just book it. Goes straight to my calendar. You can just book a call with me. You get a free 30-minute strategy session. I talk you through some things, and at the end of which I invite you, if you would like to work with me closely in private coaching, only if I feel I can help you. If I feel I can't help you, I will recommend what I think is the next best thing for you to do. I have a diagnosis and treatment approach to pretty much everything. So, if you want to get on a free call with me, absolutely do that. But today I'm going to talk about the definition of burnout. Now, interestingly enough, in 2019, the WHO made burnout a diagnosis, right? Made burnout a diagnosis. But long before that, long before the WHO came along, burnout has been around in various situations. Now, I'm going to give you 2 definitions of burnout. The pre-WHO definition, the pre-WHO definition and the WHO definition. The pre-WHO definition goes thus, and I read, burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. So it's a state of prolonged stress. Now, the WHO definition narrows it down to work situations. Now, the WHO definition goes thus: feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficiency. So both of those definitions hold water, but as we go further, I will talk about how burnout can apply in situations that are not work only. So here's a little bit of my story. When I was a resident, I suffered burnout because, again, it was more from unable to meet the demands of both my work and home life combined. It was a lot. I came from a different country. I came from London to the US. And let's just say, without going into too much detail, medical training and medical practice is completely different over there. Obviously, every system has its advantages and disadvantages, and I'm not knocking one in favor of the other. But let's just say that I suffered from culture shock when I came from England to the US. And I also burnt out pretty pretty severely in my first year. I got to the point where I was suicidal and I wanted to leave the program and I wanted to go back to England, and I was, woe is me, everything was wrong, and somebody help me, I'm drowning over here. But at that time, burnout wasn't even a thing that was discussed, right? It wasn't discussed. It didn't seem to be a thing. I didn't know what I was going through. All I knew was that, oh my goodness, this was terrible. And I just really, really wanted to get out of here by whatever means necessary. So in all my mental anguish, as it were, and coming through that, I was able to, I would say, cast an eye on over my experience, a sort of observational eye to see, how can I help my colleagues? And when I became a coach, this was the thing that I was meeting, that I was running up against. Doctors who not necessarily wanted out, but wanted to feel better, wanted to not feel so overwhelmed, wanted to do other things that were outside of medicine with maybe they have other gifts and talents that they wanted to use, but didn't feel able to do so because they were drowning in the sea of burnout. Okay, so emotional, physical, mental exhaustion. I have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. Now, a lot of people ask me, did you leave medicine? Because then when people hear more about my story, they find out that I'm retired. Yes, I am retired. I didn't leave medicine. I got to a point where I realized that my work was really important, and focusing on the healers for me was much more fulfilling for me, and it was a way for me to, I would say, give back to the profession in a meaningful way. And what happened was that I started coaching, and it just got to a point where I had, so many physician clients that it was like, oh, okay, the next thing to do is for me to focus all my energy on my colleagues, because I'm so needed. If I can help, multiple physicians stay in practice longer, live happier lives, not be burnt out, not be suicidal, not kill themselves, if I can help one more physician do that, I will gladly spend my dying breath doing just that for my colleagues, very happily. So this is a 3-part series, and in this part I am going to the first thing I'm going to do is debunk myths concerning burnout. Because what happens is when physicians get burnt out, they get to a point where they, as it were, require help, but are too scared or too ashamed or feel too stigmatized to ask for it. And usually it's after their coping strategies have been stretched to the max. So I'm just going to go ahead and debunk a few myths about burnout that are just really, not true at all. And we'll go from there. So the first myth about burnout is that if you're burnt out, it's your fault. That is absolutely not true. If you're suffering with burnout, it's not your fault. Just like the same way, if you're suffering with a headache, a stomachache, hypertension, diabetes, a gunshot wound, it's not your fault. A lot of times, even as doctors, we understand the I would say the pathophysiology behind mental illnesses, as it were, but we refuse to accept that we ourselves can be, as it were, victims of those pathophysiologies. And if you're a doctor or even anybody watching this today and you're feeling burnt out, you're feeling that emotional, mental exhaustion that you can never get away from, you're feeling tired all the time, you cry before you go into work, you're looking at yourself and you're saying, oh my God, what is going on here? How did I get here? I feel so horrible. I feel so bad. I'm so tired. I hate myself. I hate my job. I hate everything. Let me tell you this. It is not your fault. It's not your fault. Okay, so that's myth number 1 that I've just helped you debunk and throw into the bushes, that it's your fault. Number 2 myth that people tend to say, tend to talk about, and I've heard this in a lot of physician circles, we need resilience training. No, you do not need resilience training. Here's something about being a doctor. You're already resilient. You're already super duper resilient, How do I know? Because the whole process to become a doctor is simply a weeding out process. There are many people, I mean, how many people do you know that when they were 8 years old, I want to be a doctor when I grow up? How many of them are doctors today? And that's not to say it's anybody's fault or whatever. It's just the truth that becoming a doctor is a whole weeding out process that's pretty serious. And the truth is that only the fittest survive. So the fact that you're a doctor already, where you are now, means that you're already resilient. So you don't need any more resilience to fight against burnout. More resilience is not what you need. Another myth number 3, it comes with the territory. That is absolutely not true. There are many doctors that are not burnt out. Indeed, for me, after I recovered from burnout in my first year, I never got burnt out again. So there are absolutely many, and I went on to practice until, it would just made sense for me to do this, and I can happily go back to practicing medicine again. But burnout is not normal. I remember a few years ago, a group of accountants actually contacted me, and they were looking for a speaker. So one of the things they asked, what do you speak on? I said, well, burnout prevention. They were like, well, we're looking for someone to give us business strategy. I was like, well, I said, I can do that, but really my jam is burnout prevention. And, I do it for doctors, but I'm pretty sure I could do it for accountants too. And this lady said to me, well, burnout comes with the territory, doesn't it? I was like, that's why I do this training, so that you can realize that burnout doesn't come with the territory. But they were not ready for that conversation. And, they eventually didn't hire me to speak on burnout. But here's the thing. A lot of doctors feel that, well, this is just part of what we signed up for. It's absolutely not true. You can seek solutions to burnout, and don't allow people to shame you by saying, well, that's what you signed up for. No, that's not what you signed up for. You didn't sign up for emotional and mental and physical exhaustion that is chronic. It's okay to have a tired day or two, like, oh, wow, today was really, really, really rough. I remember one day I came in and, somebody had grinded her fingers in a blender and had been to the ER and was treated but refused to go back. And I was stuck with taking off bandages that were stuck to her fingers and all that stuff. And it took me more than an hour to do. Of course, that took the whole day. That threw off the whole day. That is what we signed up for. Helping people, like, okay, you know what? I'm going to help somebody no matter what. That's what you signed up for. And that day, of course, you're going to come home, you'll be tired. But the chronic, constant exhaustion and never feeling like you're ahead and never feeling like you're behind the 8 ball all the time, that does not come with the territory. That is not normal, and you don't have to live like that. The next myth number 4, is, the feeling that, oh, you shouldn't complain because you're paid a living wage. Hello. No, absolutely not. There was this show that I used to watch when I was growing up called The Rich Also Cry. So the fact that you're earning a living wage doesn't mean that you should be quiet in the face of horrible working conditions. Right? Burnout is burnout. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Money doesn't save you from burnout in a lot of contexts. There's more nuance to it than that. But being paid a living wage doesn't mean that you're exempt from being burnt out. So, well, we pay you a lot of money is not something that holds water. Another myth, right, is that once you suffer with burnout, you have to leave medicine. It's absolutely not true. That's like saying that once you have diabetes or hypertension, or if you get shot in the leg, you have to leave medicine. No, it's a condition like any other it needs treatment. Its treatment can be complex depending on what your needs are and what the cause of the burnout is. But you don't have to leave medicine. You can recover from burnout and have a fulfilling medical practice. You obviously need support, but it absolutely can be done. You don't have to leave medicine if you don't want to leave, right? But if you want to leave medicine, it's your life, right? You get to decide how long you practice with your license, right? It's not a do or die affair. So you don't have to leave medicine unless you really want to. And I would really suggest it's the kind of thing I would actually strongly suggest that if you're a physician suffering with burnout, that you don't make it a reason to leave medicine. You know, if you do want to leave on your own rational terms, as opposed to, you know, well, I'm burnt out, I'm getting out of here, because there's solution for you. Last but not the least myth, and this is kind of the worst one, that burnout can be solved by working harder. Nothing could be further from the truth. Saying that burnout can be solved by working harder is like telling somebody that that if their ankle is broken, they should run on it, and that will make it better. Running on a broken ankle will make the ankle worse. Working harder to solve burnout will make the burnout worse, because you're already exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally. So work harder, work harder, work harder, work harder is not a solution to burnout. So I know I said this is going to be a 3-part series, but it may be a 4-part series because there's so much to cover. There's so much to cover. But you know, if you like what you hear so far, just, you know, stay tuned for the next episode next week, where I will be covering sources of burnout and creating a new identity. So if you want to work with me, just book a call in the link and get on my calendar, and we'll have a conversation. And then you can decide, we can both decide, where do we go from here? So there it is. I'm going to go over the myths once again. Number 1, that burnout is your fault. It isn't. Number 2, that you need more resilience. You don't. You're already resilient. Number 3, comes with the territory. Lie. Number 4, you shouldn't complain because you make good wages. Again, no, that doesn't make any sense. Number 5, once you suffer with burnout, that you have to leave medicine. Absolutely not. And number 6, burnout can be solved by working harder. Absolutely not. That's like telling somebody to run on a broken ankle. So, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next week, where I'll be talking about sources of burnout and creating a new identity.